What's up, everybody? This is your boy Uber Hikari, aka the Nerd Nigga, here to bring you another video with no frills, just the analysis. And today I'm going to be bringing you the Season 1, Episode 6 review of The Legend of Korra entitled, and the winner is Amon. No, I'm just joking, but clearly Amon won in this episode. Again, Amon wins. Wow, this was just a hell of an episode. Just, amazing, amazing episode. And let me just say this. I haven't seen a character this complex sort of skate the boundaries of villainy since Shar Aznavour from Gundam. I mean, this series, Amon, wow. I mean, Amon is going to go down in history as one of the legendary antagonists, if not villains. And like I said before, it's not clear to me that Amon at this point is a villain. Even now, it's not clear to me that he's a villain, but he'll certainly go down as one of the legendary antagonists of all time. So, and of course, poor Korra. I mean, I like Korra. I really do like Korra, but she is just getting outclassed in every way by Amon. Just totally outclassed. And also, let me say this. The pacing is very, very, very fast. The pacing is very fast, but I will say this. The writing does not miss a beat. So even though the pacing is incredibly fast, the writing just does not miss a beat. So man, let's get into it. So this episode opens up with the Fire Ferrets training for the Pro Bending Finals, of course. And all of a sudden, Amon comes on the radio, and he basically says, don't have this finals tournament, or else you're gonna feel my wrath. And at first, when I first heard this, I was like, what? Like, what is he talking about? Why is Amon going after bending sports? I mean, it seems a little bit ridiculous that a political figure, a revolutionary figure, a sort of terrorist figure like Amon would be going after bending sports rather than people who are in a position to affect politics who may be benders. So that was a little sketchy to me coming off the bat at the beginning of this episode. But his plans, his political machinations become clear as the episode goes on. Then we cut to a scene of the Republic Council trying to deal with Amon's latest threats to see how they're going to respond to this. And initially, they decide to, you know what, we're going to nix the finals. We're not going to have it. And this scene was very interesting to me because Tarlok and Tenzin actually agreed. Now, of course, Korra objects to this, but when Korra objects to this and the Fire Ferrets object to this, Tarlok says, I won't put innocent lives at risk. So what this means is that, and I've been one of these people who have been suspicious of Tarlok, and I know a lot of people have been sort of suspicious of what role Tarlok will precisely play in this series. But for me, at least, this sort of, puts a damper on my suspicions because it seems like, Tarlok is actually going to be on the good side here. And it looks like now he'll play the role of an antagonist type figure who will always perhaps be a thorn in Tenzin's side. But it looks like overall he'll actually be on the good side. So then after the council decides to nix the finals, Lin Beifong, waltzes into the council's meeting and she disagrees with them. She basically says, and this is where, Lin Beifong really reminds me of Toph. She basically says, you can't give in to the demands of a terrorist. I mean, what are you people? You're the government, You have to get some pep in your step. Get some bass in your voice. Don't give in to the demands of this terrorist. You can't allow this to happen. And her argument for this, or at least part of her argument for this, is that benders need to unify against Amon. And this sort of situation could present the perfect opportunity for benders to unify and for them to unify against Amon. And so what she does is she offers up her metal benders to stand, sentry at the arena in order to provide protection for the finals. And so once this happens, and also quick note, metal benders are going to be extremely important to Amon's plans. And I know some of you actually may have missed this, but Amon actually has a plan for the metal benders as well. And so when Lin Beifong offers up the metal benders to protect the arena, the council reverses its course and says, you know what, we'll have the finals if Lin Beifong is willing to provide the necessary protection. And so now let me just discuss a couple of important things that we see happen in this conversation, or rather this back and forth within the council about whether or not they should go ahead and have the finals. There's two types of tension operating here in this episode, and in this particular situation specifically. So at one point, Mako points out that the pro bending sport itself, that this pro bending finals event could serve as a nexus for, unifying benders and non-benders. And in a sense he's right, because benders aren't the only people who attend these sporting events. Non-benders attend them as well, and so it is a very important cultural element of the sort of intermingling between non-benders and benders. But what Tenzin says, and it's not even clear to me that even if they had agreed with Tenzin, that things would have turned out differently. I'm not sure about that. Although it would have taken Amon's plan certainly a longer amount of time to come to fruition. But Tenzin's response to Mako in any event is that having the finals could actually exacerbate the situation. And here Tenzin, I think, was referring to Lin Beifong, because he says if the Benders unify against Amon, if the Benders decide to form, some faction and decide to stand up against Amon and to unify with each other in that way and identify Amon as the villain here, or as the threat, then what could happen is that the Benders in the course of unifying with each other could potentially alienate the non-benders. And so what we see here is a very, very sensitive political situation where these guys basically have to walk a tightrope. And it seems like Amon has caught them in a catch-22, a classic catch-22. So it's clear now that once we realize this tension between Lin Beifong's position and between the point being raised by Tenzin, we now realize that Amon has backed the council into a corner. And this is why Amon is such a dangerous political foe. I mean, forget the fact that he has the ability to take away somebody's bending. That's the least of your worries when it comes to Amon. I mean, Amon has such a great understanding of social psychology, of sociology, and about the way in which psychology and sociology relates to politics. And it comes through very, very clearly in this episode, and it comes through in this sort of catch-22 that Amon has put the council in. So it gets real bad for the council. So of course the council has two options. They can either nix the finals, in other words, don't have the finals, or they can proceed and have the finals. If they choose option one, if they don't have the finals, it will look like they just caved to a political terrorist. That's what it'll look like. The people will then start to lose confidence in the government. The people will then become more fearful because they think that the government will be impotent and it won't be able to protect them against Amon. And then eventually Amon will be able to use those fears against them in order to further his own political agenda. On the other hand, if they have the finals, which is what they decided to do, then everybody knows how this episode ended. So this is why I say that Amon is just a political genius. It's one thing to create a character who's just, a political revolutionary. They could be a stupid political revolutionary, but this is not the case when it comes to Amon. He just the way in which he backed this council into a corner in such a strategic way. And he did it in such a way that these people didn't even realize what was happening to them. They didn't even understand that they were already caught in a trap. Wow. So again, no matter what the council chose, they would have played directly into Amon's hands. And this is what the art of war means, ladies and gentlemen. This is what the art of war means. To eliminate the choices that your political opponents have, and to back them into a corner, and to force them to make decisions that they think that they're making of their own free will, when really they're just playing directly into your hands. Wow. So after this, the decision has been made to go forward with the pro bending finals, we finally get some insight into why it is that, Lin Beifong has been acting so salty towards Korra. So apparently Tenzin used to date Lin Beifong before he married his current wife. And so now Lin is still, salty about that. And so all of the anger that she feels towards Tenzin, she's now projecting that anger onto Korra. And so that's the real reason why Lin Beifong has been acting so, salty towards Korra. A lot of you have speculated that there may have actually been some problems between Lin Beifong and Ang, or perhaps Ang, something happened where Ang caused, Toph to die, and that's why Lin Beifong, but that was not it at all. So we finally get the backstory on that. All right, so now the pro bending finals proceed, and the Wolf Bats are cheating. And I believe it was Mako who pointed this out during the pro bending finals match. He asserts that they've paid off the referees. And we later find out that this is actually not the case. And again, this is going to be very important in order to... So remember, two important things. The first thing was the metal benders. The second thing is Mako's assertion that the Wolf Bats have paid off the refs. And this is... Let me just go off on a tangent right quick. The writing in these episodes is incredibly dense. It's very, very fast paced, but it's also incredibly dense. So even if you miss something that might seem slight at the beginning of the episode, it'll eventually come back and be important at the end of the episode. That's how good and dense the writing is. So remember, the metal benders and Mako's assertion that the Wolf Bats have paid off the referees. So when it's all over and the Wolf Bats win the championship, what happens is Amon has planted Equalists in the crowd. And the Equalists they're pulling out these electric gauntlets. You know, those sort of gauntlets that they put on that can basically give somebody a jolt of electricity to disable them. They're pulling these things out of popcorn bags. They're putting these electric gauntlets on. And just like I said, Amon predicted that the metal benders would be there. So he understands that his Equalists can't use cheat blocking against metal benders. So they have these electric gauntlets, and what do? They apply them to that metal suit. The metal benders go down instantly. Metal obviously conducts electricity. Fatal to these guys. They go down immediately, they drop. So after the Equalists secure the arena, Amon appears in the pro bending ring, and it looks like he drops down from a blimp. And this is another thing about Amon. Just so many different things that the writers are throwing at you with respect to Amon's characterization. Another thing about Amon, he is incredibly adaptable. He's got those electric gauntlets, and now we see he's got a blimp. So he's using, the cutting edge of technology and technological innovation to wage this guerrilla warfare. And one has to wonder, where is he getting the money to fund this operation? Some of you have speculated that perhaps it's Sato. Maybe it is, but I swear somebody has to wonder who is the person in charge of the technology in the Equalist movement, and where are they getting the money to fund these sort of technological innovations? It really boggles the mind. But in any event, again, this shows another aspect of Amon's characterization. He is incredibly adaptable, and he's on the cutting edge of technological innovation, which means that he's very modern. He has a very modern perspective. So after he appears in the ring, Amon then proceeds to take away all of the bending. Takes away the bending from all of the Wolf Bats. And after he does that, there's this, crazy fight scene with Korra and Lin Beifong and the Equalists. And the choreography and the music just brings an incredible intensity to these fights. It is just beautiful. I've never been captivated by fight scenes like this. And even just off the top of my head, I can't even remember the last time that I have just been so captivated by fight scenes and the choreography. At one point, Korra's in the pool that surrounds the pro bending ring, and she's in the pool and she uses water bending to try and propel herself up so she can get up to the blimp so she can fight Amon, so she can go after Amon. But the water runs out and she starts falling. And then Lin Beifong uses her metal bending to grab Korra and slingshot her up. I mean, the choreography is just absolutely amazing. So now let me go to another aspect of analysis now that I'm finally done with the summary. Remember that catch-22 that I mentioned? Well, Amon probably predicted, well, of course we know now that he predicted it. There was actually a scene of him preparing for the event that they would go through with the finals. And what he probably did was he used this as an opportunity to escalate the conflict between the Equalist faction and the Republic Council government. And it got even worse. He embarrassed them. He absolutely embarrassed the Republic Council government. And this is the sort of ideology of terrorism, where a mind can use the fear that he generates to confuse the government and to force them to make missteps, which is exactly what they did here, to force society into disarray, and to use the perception of the government's impotence to inspire fear. And so now he's got a cycle of fear going on. And he can use that to wage war against the government and to sort of proceed with his own political agenda. And all the while, these guys, and I think it was Tenzin who at the end of the episode realizes, damn, we walked right into this. This is precisely what Amon wanted us to do. We walked right into this. And not only that, but Amon, as the sort of, as the as a character who has a messiah complex, he's on the front lines fighting. It's not even like you can call Amon a coward. I mean, he's not hiding in the Equalist hideout somewhere. He is on the front lines fighting, and not just fighting, but directly antagonizing the government. I mean, this is a wanted terrorist making speeches in the middle of a crowded arena. Now, could you imagine if Osama bin Laden, and of course, Osama bin Laden's dead now, but imagine if Osama bin Laden was alive. And imagine Osama bin Laden attacked the Super Bowl and stood at the 50-yard line and said, "Come and get me, Obama. Come and get me." Could you imagine? That's what it has to be like for these people. To have a wanted terrorist in the middle of a pro bending finals match directly antagonizing the government, and then knowing that you walk directly into his traps, and on top of that, knowing that you got your ass whooped by him again. Not even the first time, but again. Wow. And then Amon makes this speech. And remember the wolf batch cheating? Remember how I said that would come back to be very important? Well, it actually is important in this episode. So Amon, is in the middle of this pro bending ring giving his speech. And Amon says, "Why are you cheering for the wolf bats? Why are you cheering for these guys?" He said they use their bending to threaten the officials into cheating for them. And you cheer for these guys who abuse their bending abilities? And so basically what he does is he uses the wolf bats as an example of benders taking advantage of non-benders. I mean, in every single way that you can think of, Amon has used this as an opportunity to further his own political agenda. I mean, the level of detail that he used to plan this out, even down to the wolf batch cheating. Wow. Wow. And so Amon says, "You cheer for these guys who abuse their bending abilities. Now I've taken away their bending. And let this be an example to other people who would try to oppose me, who will try to use their bending to oppress other people." And notice another thing. Amon only took away the bending of the wolf bats. Remember when Korra and the fire ferrets were in the pool that surrounds the pro bending ring, and one of the equalists uses that electric gauntlet to shock them and tie them up? Amon could have took away their bending too, but he didn't. So it looks like he even has plans for the fire ferrets, for Korra. We already know he has a plan for her. So even on this opportunity, where he had another chance to take away her bending, he decides not to do it. He doesn't take away Tenzin's bending when he gets electrocuted. Doesn't take away Lin Beifong's bending when she gets electrocuted. He could have, but he doesn't. And this is the reason why I say that Amon is really skating the boundary of a villain. He's not quite a villain. Certainly an antagonist, but he's not quite a villain yet. So, what are you going to do with them? What are you going to do with Amon? Just don't know. And I said it before and I'll say it again. There is a real danger that Amon will just outclass Korra. And don't get me wrong, I like Korra. Her characterization and her character development has been good up until this point. It's just that Amon is just outclassing her in every way imaginable. There's a real danger that Amon could just overshadow Korra. So, Amon. What are you going to do about Amon? Oh, and one more thing that I almost forgot. Korra definitely needs to learn airbending. She just has to. And it was apparent in this episode. When she ran out of water to water bend so she could get to Amon, if she had known airbending, she could have just airbended up there. No problem. She needs to learn airbending. She absolutely needs to learn airbending. And also so she can go into the avatar state. Because, frankly, I think that's the only way she'll probably beat Amon. But this was your boy Uber Hikari, aka the Nerd Nigga. Just brought you another video with no frills, just the analysis. Peace and have a blessed day. Amon is a beast.